Welcome to the Movers and Shakers podcast, where real students are doing real deals in the world of multifamily real estate. I'm Vince Gethings, the owner of the Wheelwell Profits Academy. Listen in as we dive into the journeys of driven individuals who are turning their dreams into reality. These people are just like you, taking action and making things happen. If you enjoy the show, please like, subscribe, and if you're ready to take action, check us out at wheelwellprofits.com to learn more about our incredible community. Let's get started.
This is Movers and Shakers, where we interview the upcoming generation of make it happen multifamily investors to share their story.
Welcome to the Movers and Shakers podcast. My name is Gino Barbaro, co-founder of Jake and Gino, multifamily investor, educator, father, mentor, and I am joined by my co-host, my brosif, Joshua Ryan Rusin, community director at Jake and Gino. Josh, how are you today?
Gino, doing well, my friend. Excited about all the activities we got going on despite Corona for the community. I mean, a few of them, the weekly Ask Me Anythings on Zoom, highlighting our team members, allowing people to ask questions directly to them, and the weekly trivia that we do, breaking up in small teams and allowing students to engage and connect and network virtually and have some fun while doing it. So I'm just excited about everything we're doing. It got going on. Gino, how about you, my friend?
Josh, I have a personal affinity to this guest. I don't think I've told him. He knows he's one of the first Jake and Gino students there, but his journey is very similar to mine. And I had gotten financial freedom back in March of 2016. I had been struggling with my restaurant and my small business, and this guest had a very similar story to me. So it was really impactful. And I remember him joining, and I remember where he was. I don't want to give away too much, but for me, it was very personal. And I felt sort of, I don't want to say an attraction, but so many likenesses to it. And he had so many limiting beliefs like I had. And I remember him joining, and I remember him seeing at our first live event in November of 2017, and he traveled all the way there. And I think the community's had a great impact on him, and I think the rest of it is a lot of hard work. So Josh, without further ado, please announce the guest.
Today's guest is Greg Scully. So Greg spent 20 years in route sales with Frito-Lay and had a small business with his wife and business partner, Kim. He began investing in real estate back in 2016. To date, his portfolio consists of 204 units across 4 properties in Tennessee. Greg recently moved to Tennessee after 40 years in Alaska to pursue real estate full-time. Without further ado, welcome to the show, Greg.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. Appreciate it.
Greg, of course. I got one question I just got to get out there. You're in Alaska. How in the world did you find Jake and Gino so early on in their career and yours as well?
That was just the internet, the magic of the internet. The whole career started with the Fan Merrill Flip This House conference type thing. Went to the weekend thing and just took copious notes, and then research every link that they threw out. I didn't immediately land on multifamily at that point, I don't think, but I'm sure it was either on Bigger Pockets, because it was kind of early in their career too, a little bit. This is back in 2016, so the whole platform was just getting started. So I don't know, just the magic of the internet.
Why multifamily for you? What drew you? What attracted you to multifamily?
It was the scale thing. That became apparent very quickly. I mean, we dipped our toe. We had a couple of turnkey single family rentals out of Memphis. They throw off a couple $100 cash flow, really to get any significant amount of money to replace your income. What are you going to need? 20, 40 of those. It's a long process. So,
but Greg, why multifamily for you? I mean, I know the scalability and all, but what led you to start another path? Did you not like your job? Did you not like where you lived? Give me the background.
Oh, it's my job. Yeah. I tolerated my job at best. We were fairly intentional about raising the kids. We wanted to have one of us home with them. So I took the job role of that. So as our girls got older, we started to transition away from having to work from somebody else. We had our own business for a few years. That's kind of where we feel we went to business school. that didn't work out the way our pro forma for the Small Business Administration, was written out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, multifamily, it was the optionality. I'm all about optionality. We're in Tennessee here now. We've got a year lease on the place we're staying. And if in a year, if we want to go check out Knoxville or Chattanooga or some other place, being in this business, you can really do it from anywhere.
Wow. And listen, it's only been 4 years. It hasn't been that long of a life-changing event. And I think it was even sooner than 4 years. But what I want to do, let's dive into let me really ask you, what were your limiting beliefs about getting into multifamily? Like, what was holding you back about getting into it, or about, exploring it? Was it the money? Was it where you lived? And Greg lives in Alaska. He's investing out of his market. To me, that would be a huge limiting belief when I started out. Students say money, access to capital, not finding deals, not raising the capital, being out of market. What really was holding you back from and having those limiting beliefs on multifamily?
Maybe it was communicating with people, because for those 20 years, I worked by myself basically on a route. We worked in a small warehouse. There was only 3 of us. I saw the same people over and over. So for me to get out of my shell and actually have to, make phone calls, introduce myself to people, start doing something that I don't really have a bunch of knowledge with. That was, and is still difficult. I'm still have to actually be very intentional about engaging online and stuff. It's not something that is supernatural for me. I'm actually a pretty quiet, reserved guy. That was the main thing. I went on 4 market tours. I mean, I was like, we're doing this. That was not a problem as to whether or not I felt we would ever be successful at it. I kind of viewed it just a matter of time. So I didn't have much trouble going in and finding a way out of it. I mean, because I called you from like my route truck.
I remember that.
When you were still at like the restaurant and stuff. I'm like, this thing is slowly killing me. I swear to God, but we'll figure a way out.
I remember that. I remember the limiting beliefs. I remember the truck route. I remember diving all into that. And I have to say, Greg, you're the carbon opposite of Josh. Josh has to see 3 people in an hour. You could see 3 people in an entire day and you'd be happy. Josh is the, gregarious. But what you said was very important, everybody. I want everyone to write this down, because networking can be a learned skill, because you can be an introvert, an ambivert, which is what Greg has to get out there, or an extrovert. But you have to be intentional. You have to set expectations when you're calling somebody, when you're going out and networking with somebody. It's not just going out and getting business cards. Have that set of expectations when you go out and meet somebody, whether it's the broker, whether it's a potential investor, whether it's a property manager. Have that expectation set with what you want to accomplish and what kind of value you want to derive to the other side. Do you want to add anything to that, Greg, as far as networking? Because I know you've probably had to work on it a lot. And when you need to work on it, you really set down some type of framework or something that works for you.
What was helpful for me, and this is what helpful about any education course, or even just the ability to have podcasts and the ability to self-study, is I really like diving in quickly and immersing myself into it, because for me, building up my knowledge base to a level where I felt comfortable was very important to me. So, the quicker that you're able to get some baseline knowledge and some experience, the easier all of these conversations get. So, being able to accelerate the learning process was super helpful, because I had a lot of windshield time. So I was listening to, a couple of days on the route was the drive alone was about an hour and a half one way. So I had approximately 4 hours of windshield time twice a week. So I was just listening to podcasts.
So, Greg, I'm going to answer this for you, but then I want you to add on to it, because I know, give me some of the immediate benefits. For you, I saw the immediate benefits of joining the Jake and Gino community was the partnership, the ability to partner with other people, the accountability piece, being able to talk to other people, the coaching element, getting on phone calls and discussing deals with other people. What else? And the education, obviously. What other benefits did you derive from joining the community?
The education is condensed into bite-sized and accessible increments. Basically, you can go as slow or as fast as you want to. I mean, for me, really was the network. Because being back in Alaska, I had decided I didn't want to invest in Alaska. So I knew I was going to go somewhere else. So the network part of it was absolutely crucial for what specifically I needed to accomplish. So a lot of it is just access, access to other people and markets that you're interested in. Because there's only so much I was going to do from Alaska, and that's and that tended to point the direction of what I was going to learn just by default, because I'm more of the analysis type guy, the market research guy. I couldn't be boots on the ground. I couldn't be face to face across the table with a local broker. You can do that stuff on the phone to some extent, but it only gets you so far. I did do market tours. I think there's absolutely value to getting in front of the people that you're ultimately going to be working with. But for me specifically, it was the ability to meet like-minded people in the markets that I was interested in.
And how did you end up picking Tennessee from Alaska?
It wasn't one of the places that I market toward. I went to Spokane. There's different ways that people say, invest where you have family, where you may feel like retiring, or where there's some significant or low entry barrier type thing. So went to Tucson. My mom and dad lived there. Pretty decent market.
Yep.
I like, hey, they can be boots on the ground. I was quickly figured out that they had zero interest in doing that. I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. So we went to Spokane. That's an area, I'm like, hey, we could retire there or something. It was kind of a higher barrier to entry. They were getting a little bit of the ripple effect from Seattle. So I was like, okay, this is going to be tough from Alaska to be able to act quickly. Went to Dayton, Ohio. There's a lot of opportunity there. Stuff is cheap, but you really have to know exactly what block you're living in. So then, I got into the first deal because somebody in the Jake and Gino community got this property under contract and talked about it and said like, hey, who's interested? At that point, I had met Darren, Darren Light, who is now my main partner. And I think he brought it to my attention. You guys were obviously in Tennessee, and then just general market knowledge. I knew the Southeast was a good market. At that point I had the ability to kind of quickly research a market. If something was like, oh, what do you think of the Tennessee area? The information was there. So I'm like, okay, it hit the parameters that I was interested in, and I was fine with it.
So then you leave Alaska. Can you give listeners, anyone out there who wants, because we've had a lot of students who've actually uprooted like myself and like Josh multiple times, to leave a place where they don't like to live and to go to another place. How was that for you? I mean, can you give us the process of what you needed to do as far as selling your business, as far as closing things down, selling your house and going, and more of the emotional, because you lived in Alaska for 40 years and then you're picking up, leaving friends and family and moving to somewhere else. And was your wife on board with you? I mean, how did that all look?
Very fortunately, the wife is completely, she's my business partner, does a lot of stuff for the business. And really most of her family is still there. We moved up from New Jersey back in the day. My dad worked on the pipeline. So, in terms of my immediate family, it was just us up there. And by the time I left, it was just me and my sister. So I had less, blood ties, I guess, up there. We did everything, man, because I quit my job, cashed in my pension, did a 401k trick, refied the house. My wife went and started working full time while I was transitioning to this. Yeah, we sold the house. It's a process. The business, we just shuttered. We were like, okay, this is not working. At the time I was working full time. We had the business, which really Kim ran, and I would, kind of do whatever I could do in the background. And at some point, we just had to make a decision of, you can only do so many things at once. And, long-term with my goals of the optionality, having a brick and mortar business was no longer in the cards. I was like, that one's a no-brainer, needs to go. It wasn't cash flowing anyway, so we weren't making any money.
So you guys sell the house, you guys move to Tennessee, and this is all because of multifamily. It allows you that optionality, like you said, to move into multifamily, and you moved into your market of where you were, wanting to invest. Why don't you tell the listeners how you chose Darren? I personally love Darren Light. He's an accountability coach with Jake and Gino. I think he's a fantastic dude. He's one of the early members of Jake and Gino, and I've seen his rise and his growth in the community. I've seen his growth as a student. I've seen his growth as an investor. I've seen his growth as an accountability coach. What would recommendations would you give anybody out there looking for a partner?
Well, I mean, with Darren, it was just very organic and authentic. It was nothing very intentional that we had to work on. And we're not, so married as partners that we have to do everything together. It's kind of worked out that way so far, but we're very complementary skill. He's a great networker, great people person. He, definitely holds his own on the analysis side as well, but his strengths are more social, and my strengths are more analytical. I can certainly, we go to money mixers together. I can do the networking thing. It's a little bit more of something that I have to go do, instead of just happens naturally. Darren's like, hey, blah, 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 and I'm like, hello, my name's Greg. It just, and I think that's, an indication of when you think something is going right, that it doesn't seem like you're really trying to make it work. We certainly have things that we have to talk about every now and then that have to be very pointed, but generally speaking, it just kind of flows.
So for me, the partnership, I always, as Josh likes to know, I need the sniff test. If you can have a beer with somebody, I think that's the first step. I think that's why, you and Greg obviously get along really well. I mean, who doesn't get along with Greg? Get along with Darren. That's the first step. You have to like your partner. You have to like the person, I think, at some level, because you're going to be speaking to them daily. I mean, I just got off the phone with Jake. I'm probably going to speak to Jake in another hour. I speak to him multiple times in a day. If I don't like the person, it's horrible. I think the second bit of advice that you gave is fantastic. You don't have to become married to that partnership, maybe to a specific deal or another deal, and see how it works. With Jake and I, it was more organic, like you said. All of a sudden we said, let's start an education, and then let's start a syndication, and it just grew organically from that. But we didn't have to do that. But for a partnership, I think ultimately, from what I'm hearing, is we like to say it's value-based decision-making, really, really based on your values, on your beliefs, on your core values. And also you have complementary skill sets, which is really cool, because it's something you don't like to do that he'll pick up the slack, and something that you like to do, he doesn't, you'll pick up the slack. So I think that's really important out there. If you're both analysts and you both do the same things, that might not work out as well because you're lacking. You may need somebody else to do the job. So I think that's truly important. Let's talk about the first deal. How did you get into that first deal? How did you find it? And what did you really learn from that first deal?
Yeah, our first deal, we still have, and it's by far our most difficult deal to date. That was found by another partner in the Jake and Gino community. We bought it. It was on LoopNet, actually. I was looking at it simultaneously. I called on it and it was under contract, not realizing that it was under contract to people that I would be eventually partnering with. So, it's a heavy value add in Johnson City here. It's 62 units. It's on a bridge loan. When we got it, it was 85% occupied and was what you would typically see as a bridge loan type product. It was an accidental landlord in that it was being held by an estate. The developer / builder / owner had passed away, and now the wife had it. And it was just kind of limping along. There were some significant structural problems with some of the decks. They're actually under the radar of the city, and they're like, you've got to do something about this, or we're going to force you to do something about it. So they wanted to get out from under it. So we got it cheap, and it needed a ton of work. And then we had a massive contractor problem. we ended up going 100% vacant as we took the property over. The plan was, let's vacate one building at a time, and then we'll fill that up, and then we'll move people around. But we're at a very low market rent, and just the tenant base that we had got wind that change was a coming, and over the course of 3 months, they all left. So
wow. So
to say that this is a challenging property is
so what stage are you right now?
Understatement.
What's that? Where are you right now with the property?
We're much better than we were. We've got one building fully occupied. We got the last unit occupied yesterday in that, and then on the second building we had our first move in. We have another one scheduled for Friday. I think we'll have 3 or 4 more units ready within about a week.
All right.
So it's moving along. We kind of turned the corner and stuff, figured out our contractor problems. We're working on some new long-term debt, and then this whole COVID thing happened, of course. So that lengthened the timeline for some of the construction draws, to keep the property moving along. So it's and that's part of the reason why I came down here, because Darren, he's the main manager on there. He lives down more in the Knoxville area, so I came up and live in the city that the property is in, just so we can pay a little bit more direct attention to it. And at the same time, it also helps for other projects, because we've closed 2 properties since we've been here. So, having a partner allows you, 2 people can build a wall 4 times faster than one person alone type thing.
So Greg, on this deal, most investors would have probably been scared off and said, I am not doing this multifamily thing ever again. First question is, what did you learn from this deal? Would you do this deal again as your first deal? That's the first question.
No.
Okay. So knowing that, it's amazing you continued, right? Because, the big Jay Scott told me once on a podcast, you either do 0 deals or you do multiple deals. You don't just do one deal, right? So that one deal got you in the game. What were your big learning lessons on this deal? Everyone out there getting into multifamily, because I heard the word cheap, and Josh hates the word cheap, because cheap is one of those words where you get what you pay for, and ultimately you're going to pay the price. So what were those couple of big really learning lessons from that first deal?
The biggest one is vetting contractors.
Okay.
Because not only has that cost a lot of money, it has cost a lot of time. We thought we did an okay job with it. We probably could have looked a little harder and found the bad news that was actually available. But we didn't uncover that fast enough till we were in it. And to some extent, although it has become more of a product of the problems that we have, is undercapitalization. The plan looked pretty good until things started to go sideways, and then you're scrambling a little bit. So
I love that. So vetting the contractor is number 1, undercapitalization number 2, and being attracted by something that's cheap number 3. I think is something we should add on there.
Yeah, it will still be a good deal.
Yes.
Once we get there, but it's chewing up a ton of time.
Yes.
And then ultimately is lowering our returns even over the long haul, because we're chewing up a lot of runway on the front side. But what kept me in the deal is because in multifamily is, soon after we closed that one, we got another property under contract, largely with the same group of partners in Chattanooga. And that one was the complete opposite. That it ran fine. It was a small syndication. We hit pref on the first quarter out of the gate. And we actually, we just sold that also during COVID. It was a profitable deal.
Wow.
Everybody would say, so, while one thing was going on that was very challenging, simultaneously something else was going on that was very encouraging.
So how did you find that?
I'm not going to let one. What's that?
How did you find that second deal?
That one was the same partner that found the Johnson City deal found it. It was marketed.
Wow, that is awesome. And then you guys have closed another deal in Johnson City, correct?
Yeah, we closed 49 units in Johnson City here back in March. That was a JV. That was actually, we did get agency financing on that right as the whole COVID thing happening. That was a nail biter, like to the very last minute. And then we got 52 units in Knoxville as well that closed.
Wow. So everyone listen to the path that Greg took. He's from Alaska. He decides multifamily. He ultimately moves to Johnson City. He buys a deal in Johnson City, a tough deal. Then from there, he goes and buys a deal in Chattanooga. Then he buys another deal in Johnson City. And then he buys a deal in Knoxville, all from a difficult first property where Greg could have said, you know what, I'm throwing in the towel. I don't want to do this anymore. This is really hard. What kept you going? I mean, that first deal must have been really difficult and really hard. What kept you going? What did you say to yourself that I want this multifamily thing?
Well, it's a proven business model. And if, in any business model, there are going to be exceptions that are difficult, but you can't let that small percentage cloud the possibility of following through and keeping with the process. So, I mean, once you're in it, you just got to figure it out. That's really all it comes down to.
But Greg, it's easy for you to say that, but I know in coaching there's something we call an energy block, an assumption, and people who get stopped assume that they crapped out. And even from a business that you had up in Alaska that wasn't working, you said, you know what, let me transition that, let me go into multifamily. And your first deal is very difficult out there. You could have made the assumption that, hey, this multifamily thing is proven, but it's too risky for me. I can quit. And that's why it's important for everyone to hear your message that multifamily is a proven business model. You need to get out there. You need to educate yourself. You need to surround yourself with like-minded people. You need to continue to take massive action, and you need to continue to revise that business plan. It's all a learning process. Would you say that's correct? Because there's a lot of people out there that are saying real estate's too risky. I've gotten to a deal. I've lost money. I lost money in my first 2 or 3 deals, and that didn't stop me either because I didn't want to make that assumption. My why was strong enough. My reasons reap rewards, everybody. Jim Quick says that your reasons reap rewards. I had enough reasons out there to stay in multifamily, make it stick. And I think Greg did also. That's what I'm trying to dive deep in. What were your reasons to continue on with it?
I am just really committed to not working for other people anymore. So the optionality thing is big for me. Kind of my role model is actually Kim's grandfather. He did very well for himself, but in banking, he was a president of a bank, and he's provided for his family very well, without flaunting it. So I'm like, okay, that's the position I want to be, and this is the route I want to take it. And when you talk to him, although he was the president of a bank, when you get into some of the things that he did, they were real estate, like, he got involved in development in Maui in an area that was on the bubble, and reap the rewards, 10 years later. And then in Alaska, we were oil based, and there was a booming economy at one point, although right now it's kind of stagnant. So he was able to be involved with some of the development that was going on. And, and I think for him, it was more of a byproduct of his banking rather than him intentionally getting into real estate. But it dawned on me like, oh, wow, a lot of his success was in this industry, although it wasn't necessarily multifamily. It was,
I love that. It was real estate. Everyone, let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsors.
Is your money working as hard as you are? At RAM Partners, we partner with hardworking investors who are seeking true passive income through multifamily real estate. Partnering with RAND means transparent communication with our webinars, monthly statements, and newsletters. For more information, visit randpartners.com to register for our investor portal and to set up a call with our team.
All right, Greg, I got some short answer questions here for you. So what's your favorite book you've ever read and why?
The Giving Tree, the children's book by Shel Silverstein. It's just a beautiful book.
The Giving Tree.
Love it.
I don't know. It's just a fantastic message.
Got it. What about best habit for success?
Mine is pretty boring. A good list on my phone and a well appointed calendar gets me most of my work done. So I've made that a habit. I make a list every night. Like even when I get off the phone with a broker, I immediately put in a reminder check back with them in 3 weeks in my calendar. So if I do those two things, I get a lot done.
Like it. Habits don't have to be complicated to work.
No,
right?
they're not. I mean, I
argue
tried the
opposite
app
way.
thing. Yeah, I tried all the apps and all this stuff. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to use Memo on my phone and Google Calendar, and it's working pretty well. Yeah,
Yep.
right. A piece of paper.
That's all.
All right. So I want to highlight some of the golden nuggets and takeaways I've had from this episode. One is just being intentional, right? Greg recognized that his strong suit may not be the networking, and he was intentional about networking and creating connections. Another one is getting educated. So Greg had the knowledge, which led to the confidence in order to take action, and educated action led to better results, which is going to breed more action. Another one was turning the car into a library on wheels. So Greg, when he had his W-2, had a lot of drive time, and using that time to educate is very key to getting ahead. And then having the right network, the right knowledge, being in the right place at the right time is what led to Greg's deal. So my question to everyone listening, what are you doing to set yourself up to have the right action, the right knowledge, and be surrounded by the right people to get the right results you're looking for? Gino, what else do you have to add to that?
I think the first thing, Josh, we always stress is education times action equals results. As I've always said, I've took massive action in the beginning. I didn't get educated. And until I got educated and I put both of those together, I was getting the results. I love Greg's story because he joins from out of market. He actually moves to the market that he's investing in. He finds his partners in a community. He starts doing his work. His first deal is a big struggle, and he continues on. And I think he immerses himself in the whole entire, investing process, and he works with his weaknesses and he works towards his weaknesses, but he finds a partner who complements him. And I think, we always say multifamily is a team sport. There's so many different, avenues that partners can bring to the table. And I like the fact that Greg said, you have more people, you can get more stuff done. I love that. And Josh, just to, recap his struggles on his first deal, which are really important to recap them, vetting out the contractors, getting 3 different quotes from contractors. If you have to, maybe you do a criminal credit background check on them. Maybe you do a background check on them just to see what's going on. I think that might be important, especially when you're putting a lot of cap and a lot of time towards this contractor. The second thing is the undercapitalization. Make sure that you capitalize yourself. You have enough money set aside for any unforeseen problems like COVID event, right? And the third one is don't always think that cheap is always better. Cheap may not be better in the long term because it might be difficult. You may have to put more money into the deal. And I think first deal, 62 units, heavy lift, took a lot of courage, but I think the deal is going to work out. So that's awesome.
Well, listen, Greg, I want to thank you for being an amazing guest on the show and sharing your movers and shakers story. Now, if you want to be the next movers and shakers guest, email me, josh@jakeandgino.com. And if you like this show, please leave us a review. And until next time, let's make it a movers and shakers week. See you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Greg.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hey, Gino, the 2 most common questions I've been asked are, how do I get into real estate and do my first deal? The other question, how do I scale my real estate portfolio? Well, gang, we have great news for you. Gino, tell them about it.
We can help you answer both of those questions. At jakeandgino.com, we offer a variety of micro courses to help you along your real estate journey. Our proprietary 3-step framework has helped hundreds of real estate entrepreneurs successfully get started in real estate with no experience, and it has also helped experienced real estate entrepreneurs take it to the next level.
If you want more information, visit www.jakeandgino.com/courses. That's JAKEANDGINO.com/courses and use coupon code podcast for 20% off
your purchase on taking the next step in your multifamily journey.